What up, my fellow NBA lovers? This is your guy, Marcellus Ease, and this will be part of my series, What Can You Do For Me Today, Volume 2. And this time it'll be starring Doc Rivers once again, and I'm going to also add on to it Mr. Ben Simmons, as the 76ers have now fallen to the Atlanta Hawks in a Game 7 in a wonderful series that was with a bunch of back and forths. But unfortunately for the 76ers right now, they're beginning to realize their real position with Mr. Ben Simmons, as he put on quite a disappearing act for most of this series. In Game 1, he took 2 attempts. He made 2 shots. In Game 2, he took 0. In Game 3, he was 1-on-1 in the fourth quarter. In Game 4, 5, 6, and 7, he didn't even attempt a field goal in the fourth quarter. Now, unfortunately for the 76ers, they're beginning to realize Embiid's health is on the decline, and he's also entering his prime years. So right now, they got to quickly figure out what they're going to do with Ben Simmons. Unfortunately for them, they might not have the same leverage as they once had before, as other teams will start to realize that they're on the desperate side of this potential trade. They're going to talk about this, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
But how about this? Trae Young and the Hawks, they punched their ticket to the Eastern Conference Finals after a 103-96 Game 7 win over Joel Embiid and the 76ers. Atlanta's point guard had a cold shooting night, but he finished with 21 points.
Now, if you look at Trae Young right here, this is the second game in a row where he pretty much struggled. But once again, I'm bringing up the fact that we have to question these type of defensive-only players that are in the league today, sort of like Ben Simmons. Because even with a guy like Trae Young, players are so skilled offensively. Even when you kind of hold them down to what they normally don't do, which is score, you're still going to have them pretty much score 20 points plus due to the number of possessions. Now, when you look at this game, Trae Young still scored in the 20s, but unfortunately, Ben Simmons only had 4 points. So when you start to look at this thing from a three-dimensional perspective, you sort of see that there's sort of a major gap. So this is where, the 76ers are going to have to sort of sit down and realize what's going on here and be honest, especially with the audience, about Ben Simmons.
Put the finishing touches on Philly. Embiid scored 31, but it wasn't enough, as fellow All-Star Ben Simmons finished with just 5 points, guys.
Yeah, with Trae Young, you could lock him up, but eventually at some point he's going to go off.
The Sixers will now head into the offseason with doubt surrounding their roster. So, Shannon, what is the biggest reason the 76ers lost this game?
Well, Jen, I'm going to disagree. There's no doubt around this roster.
Okay.
They know what they need to do. The question is whether or not they're going to do it. Skip, they lost because their second best player became unplayable in the series.
And also, they kept hiding their second best player on the offensive end on the floor with guys like Shake Milton and Seth Curry trying to make up for that difference. And last year, offensively, they tried to hide Ben Simmons by using Alec Burks with his jump shot shooting ability. But if you look at, particularly in this Game 7, there was about 19 ties and 20 lead changes. Once again, Ben Simmons had nothing to do with that. I knew the 76ers were in trouble when I saw guys like Seth Curry and Shake Milton taking fadeaway jump shots of crucial parts of that fourth quarter.
We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Skip, that Doc said that, you don't really know basketball if you think we're going to take Ben Simmons out of the ball game late in the ball game, even though he's an atrocious free throw shooter. He's going to play. And then the last couple of minutes of this ball game, they side him out. A couple of nights ago, they side him out 2 or 3 possessions because they were fouling. They used Hack-a-Ben, and they got back into the ball game, and they won it. So he became unplayable. Skip, here's some numbers for you. He's taken 0 shots in the last 4 quarters. He's taken 1 shot over the last 4 quarters. Skip, the guy that touches the ball the most, if he becomes unplayable, there is no value. He can't give you enough on the other end to add value. Because if you ever get behind, what are teams going to do? Instead of you taking a 3, they're going to foul him. Skip, Ben Simmons has not gotten any better since he arrived as a rookie.
Correct. And that's very telling, man. We're 5 years in. Once again, guys like Ben Simmons, the major difference between someone like him and like a freakishly athletic guy like Dennis Smith Jr. is that Dennis Smith Jr. is not as big as Ben Simmons, and he's not gifted defensively like Ben. And he doesn't have the court vision. But that's really the only difference. Offensively, these type of archetypes of NBA players, guys that are coming into the league freakishly athletic, and they're not as skilled. Eventually, it's going to start to show.
Now, you look at him and you look at Lonzo Ball. You can see the improvement Lonzo Ball has made every year in his shooting. Ben Simmons has not gotten better. And let me tell you the difference, Skip. I could not swim. I went to 4-H camp. I was in 6th grade, and I couldn't swim. And my friends, Ricky Blanton, Grady Kicklotter, and Simmy Driggers, they asked me, they're like, can you swim? I said, no. They asked me, am I afraid of the water? I said, no. They said, we can teach you how to swim. You see, the difference is Ben Simmons can't shoot, but that's not his problem. He's afraid to shoot.
And I'm wondering if the Philadelphia 76ers organization is afraid to bring this up to him and criticize him in a certain way to motivate him to get better. Because it's often been said they're tippy-toeing their way around Ben Simmons' sensitivity, especially when it comes to critiquing his game.
That's his problem. Skip it. If you're afraid to shoot the ball, you'll never be able to shoot it.
So they should trade Ben Simmons, is what you're saying.
Absolutely, 1,1714%.
That might be the most absurd thing you've ever said on this show. Go ahead.
You can keep him, but you're never going to win with him.
Okay.
I don't think the 76ers right now are going to have the leverage that they think that they should have. I should say they're not going to have the same leverage as they had last year, where teams are offering a bunch of draft picks. It's not going to be the same because right now, the whole world has pretty much seen the psyche of Ben Simmons, how he gave up that easy layup because he didn't want to get fouled. They know something is up, and I don't think the 76ers are going to be on the right side of this trade as they want to be, as far as getting assets back and picks.
Not a championship. And I tell you what, hey, play that sound for me. Jim, run that sound for me. Now, I don't know, man. I've never coached a game of basketball in my life. But here's the guy that's played the game, has won a championship as a coach. This is what he said.
Doc, you think Ben Simmons can still be a point guard for a championship team like the one you guys want to become?
Yeah, David, I don't know that question or the answer to that right now. So I don't know the answer to that.
And I immediately tweeted the moment he said that because I was watching it live because I'm all over it after the game. You can look at my timeline. That was out of bounds on Doc's part. You can't shift all the blame to him because Doc Rivers has repeatedly blown big leads as a head coach in this league. And
that's fact. That is 100% fact. You can make the argument that Doc Rivers has even underachieved in Boston, only winning one championship in 2008. And he's still living off that reputation. Because then he's had over a decade with the Clippers of just nonstop playoff disappointments, blowing 3-1 leads against Houston, disappointment against the Memphis Grizzlies. Those CP3 years are painful. And then to end it all with the disappointment in last year's bubble with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George being up 3-1 once again. Doc Rivers has been a coach that's been blessed of just coaching teams with great talent. But unfortunately, he's come up short. And he's especially come up short to the amount of championships he's earned or just the number of final appearances he should have been in.
So is he without blame?
No, Skip,
Love Doc,
Skip.
but you can't say that. You cannot throw Ben Simmons under that bus just because the bus ran over you.
Okay. Jim, you got that Joel Embiid sound for me?
Now, I'm also thinking, is this Doc Rivers putting pressure on the Philadelphia 76ers ownership? Because even Jimmy Butler has gone on JJ Redick's podcast and he talked about how the 76ers are tippy-toeing around Ben Simmons and his sensitivity. He's like, that's very weird. He's like, we can't win if we're not being honest and truthful about what we need to do.
I saw this too live. I was watching it live. I actually have the sound turned up on my TV.
Okay, run it from me, Jim, right quick.
I don't know how to say it, but I thought the turning point was just, we had an open shot, and we made one free throw, and we missed the other, and then they came down and scored.
Yep. Yep. I actually asked for that also. Believe it or not, I don't know. I actually watch all the games and all the post games.
Now, if you look at this highlight right here, this pretty much let the world know Ben Simmons' psyche. And that's the reason why I'm saying that they're not going to really have the leverage that they think that they have when they're going to try to trade and gain some assets back for Ben Simmons. They're not going to be on the right end of that deal because the leverage is gone that they had last year.
games.
Okay.
But what I do is that I don't listen to the sound.
Okay.
So therefore, when you hear Shannon Sharp speak, this is Shannon Sharp speak.
I mean, damn, look at that. He's wide open. But Ben Simmons is so concerned about going to that free throw line. And just his fourth quarter performances, just the shot attempts in these close games, it makes sense of why they lost 3 home games. Something's not quite adding up.
Okay.
So, Skip, I don't get how your starting point guard shoots low 30s for the free throw line. He scored 4 points in ball games, and you think you can win a championship with him. Because here's the thing. Joel Embiid doesn't have a championship window like everybody else, given his history. You make it seem like Joel Embiid all of a sudden is going to say, you know what? I need to drop 20 pounds. I need to maintain my peak level of physical fitness to make sure I get everything out of my NBA career. Has he shown you that ability to do that yet, Skip? Has Ben Simmons shown you the ability to shoot the ball? Forget threes. Has he shown you the ability to shoot outside of the paint?
No. That's the reason why we see Alec Burks last season for the 76ers be the clutch jump shot making man. And also this season, it's pretty much come down to Seth Curry and Shake Milton. This is not a good sign at all.
No, he has not. Skip, you've seen enough. Go back and look at the history. When you get a guy like Ben Simmons and you get a guy like Joel Embiid, you're supposed to be Shaq Kobe. You're supposed to be Kareem Magic. You're supposed to be Cousy Russell. You're supposed to be Oscar Kareem.
Yep.
Tony Parker, Tim Duncan.
Yep.
They're not even that.
They can't be that. Ben Simmons has missed 48 free throws this whole playoffs. There's teams right now, whether they're in the playoffs or not, they have less missed free throws as a team.
Skip, at some point in time, you got to cut your losses.
Tell me when you're finished.
You got to cut your losses,
Okay,
Skip.
you done?
I'm done.
Okay, thank you very much. My turn. First of all, it was absolutely shameful that last night the Sixers lost a Game 7 at home while little Mice Tray, he was cold. He was shivering all night. He shoots.
Oh, man. Once again, Trae Young was struggling in this game, but you can only hold down somebody like that for so long. And this goes the same for the rest of the NBA. These players are so skilled. You can stop them from dropping 40, but these guys are still going to get their points regardless. So on the other end, you better sort of at least halfway make up the difference. Ben Simmons is not even doing anything nowhere near that. I believe he made the All-Star team this year, averaging 15 points.
5 of 23. He shoots 2 of 11 from 3. You have to win that game. He is begging and begging and begging you, just take it over and put us out of our misery. And instead, the script flipped, and Joel Embiid could not bring it home. He had a huge start to the fourth quarter, but he had no finish to the fourth quarter except for a bunch of lousy, careless turnovers. And he had 8 for the game, and you cannot win with 8 turnovers. But here's the God's truth about this series. It was lost in Game 4 of the Philly-Washington first-round series when Joel Embiid tore his cartilage. I know for a dead, solid fact he has a small flap of torn cartilage that they're going to have to fix in the offseason.
And also in the offseason, once again, the 76ers are going to have to think about moving Ben Simmons because right now is Joel Embiid's prime, and they don't want to waste it because it's not even a guarantee it's going to even last that long. So this trust the process situation is going to pretty much come down to the next 2 seasons and some of the moves the front office of the 76ers is going to have to make.
And they begged him. They told him, they showed him the MRI, and they said, you can play through this because it's such a small flap that it probably won't bother you that much. It'll bite you occasionally, but it's not going to get worse. And what happened? Joel Embiid does not have the highest pain threshold. He's never exhibited the highest pain threshold.
He better get in shape because had he been in shape, at least it could make up a little difference of him not having that threshold.
And so routinely through this series, he would grimace and wince as he went up the floor. So he was never himself last night. How can you not post up Clint Capella? You can annihilate him, as we saw when he went 8 for 8 to open up Game 5.
Once again, the reason why he probably didn't post him up because guys' front-facing game is so good, they have the option of not posting up players, particularly centers. I mean, you could take even look at a guy like Jokic. He doesn't have to post guys up because he could spot up, shoot threes. He can make passes. He could beat you off the dribble. Once again, guys' front-facing game is so good in today's NBA, it makes you question having guys like Ben Simmons on a team who can only drop 4 points, because you could lock other guys as much as you want to, but eventually they're still going to get their points. And if you're just going to drop 4 points in a game, there's a huge disconnect right there.
Rate in the first quarter and outscored Capella 17-0 because he posted him. You have to go and set up and shield him off and get position and demand the basketball. Instead, no, I'm not sure about my knee, so I'm going to drift around the perimeter and shoot three-point shots.
That's
and
been
long.
the criticism of Joel Embiid. He doesn't post enough even when he's healthy.
But he could have, but he never trusted his knee in this series, and it changed everything. Because even last night, he thought he was Kevin Durant. He thought he could take the ball out at the top of the circle and do all this and do all this and dribble it. And the plays of the game came when, if we could see this, they still had them. And could we see Thibault? Listen, Philly plays so dumb. The Sixers just play dumb basketball. And they had them. And if we could see what Herter did to Thibault, this is an all-defensive player. This is when you've cut it to one, and he just...
Now, I don't blame Thibault right there. He probably was frustrated with Hurrier. Hurrier was killing them. He had 27 points and 1 turnover. And he was making some tough mid-range jumpers.
And slaps him across the hand. You can't do that. You're going to lose at home if you do that. Slaps him across the hand, knocks Herter down. And he obviously has a hot hand, so he goes to the free throw line and makes all 3. And then here we come up to the other end, and Joel says, I'm Kevin Durant. Watch what I can do. And let's watch him drive to the right, and let's watch Danilo Gallinari just pick his pocket. He just picked it from behind, and it's a breakaway, and that's the ball game right there. Good night, Sixers.
And that is good night, Sixers. But once again, in the offseason, the 76ers are going to have to make a decision, because they don't want to waste the prime years of Embiid and what's left, especially after he does that recovery surgery this offseason. They're going to have to figure out Ben Simmons. This situation is not working. Let's try to leverage him off and get some assets while we still can, because they definitely don't share the same leverage to trade Ben Simmons as they had in the past season. And they can no longer hide him behind guys like Shake Milton and the shooting of Seth Curry, and last season, the shooting of Alec Burks. And as we've seen in these playoffs, it's not quite working. So it is what it is. We'll see how this plays out. Until next time, you guys stay safe. Peace.